So episode 4 was probably my favorite episode of the season so far. Like, it took its time. The first 3 episodes had its highs and lows and kind of mixed bag, but this is the building blocks. We build to these moments to build on the characters that have these kind of payoffs. And so far, the payoffs was pretty solid in this 4th episode. The Zelma of it all, being that her mom, Cree Summers, was an ex-sorcerer at the Karamatage with Doctor Strange and Wong, is a very interesting setup. Very, very interested to know if she has history with those 2 characters, Wong and Doctor Strange, but also Zelma having this ability to conjure magic is really interesting. And from what I understand, I believe she is a character from the comics, Zelma, and she has ties to the Strange Academy, which is something I know Marvel's been talking about for a little bit, creating that show with obviously a Zelma. You know, Ned has his mythical abilities being a sorcerer that we saw from No Way Home, and of course, America Chavez. So they're building little building blocks. Young Avengers, Strange Academy. I like the setup in this episode. Hopefully, we get more of Zelma in the future, not only of the MCU, but in particularly with this show. But yeah, I like the stuff that we got going on there. I like this character development, the Riri, someone that's as intellectual and smart and so 10 steps ahead, and seeing her not having the answers and seeing how her character deal with that and having the anxiety attacks was a really interesting spin on the character. And you know, I'm a person that like my characters flawed, right? Riri's not perfect. And in this episode, saw Ezekiel calling her out, manipulate her, do what you need to do to make sure you're covered. I like that stuff what they're doing there. The soundtrack in this episode was fire. The stuff with Riri and Ronnie, her mom, was really good. I'm liking that development. As I said in the previous episodes, the ragtag heist group wasn't really working for me, but Ronnie, Natalie, Xavier, Ezekiel, Parker, like all that stuff was really rich and really well done in this episode, in my opinion. Only thing that was maybe a little bit of a on the nose was the team up of the villains, with Parker breaking Ezekiel out and being the replacement of Riri, and then the whole we're gonna put a hit job on her. Like, I don't think they're capable of killing people, the rest of that crew. But neither way, I thought this was a really solid episode. The magical stuff really sold me. I like the world building and the MCU connections. That's some really nice stuff there. So a really solid episode. Like I said, this is my favorite episode of the season so far. But it is time to check out episode 5. Put your scores of episode 4 in the comments now. Do you guys think this is the best one? Because I definitely do. And they setting something up. So we're gonna go ahead and get this 5th episode started here. That was tough to sit through. Just finished episode 5 of Ironheart. Glitch is a karma. Karma is a glitch, I believe, is the title of the episode. Catchy title. I like the title. That's about the only thing I liked about this episode. That was from the beginning with the White Castle, Toys R Us, Spy Kids, with a little bit of Tasma 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2. I've been saying it from the beginning that the posse, the heist posse, is the weakest part of this show, and then this episode really showed its colors with the really bad writing with that crew. That whole fight sequence reminded me of Iron Man 3, when Iron Man was fighting the Nexus, or the extremist people, especially the girl in the kitchen, and the banter in the back and forth, the goofiness of it all. Three Stooges of it all was highlighted in the opening fight sequence. And then we go from fighting the Blood Twins, which was goofy as hell, terrible dialogue, to Clown, fighting Clown. And Clown reminds me of the extremist woman from Iron Man 3. That fight was horrendous. But then to make matters worse, we see Ezekiel with his powers, aka Electro. You guys remember Electro from Spider-Man 2, Jamie Foxx. Terrible rendition, adaptation of the character. The fight between Riri and Ezekiel was atrocious. The plot armor of him not killing her. I know he's not a killer, but you could have did much better on executing that. The fake out, the twist, the turns of Parker now is just full on villain. No depth, no development, no nuance. He's just a mustache twirling villain. Understanding that the hood is influencing him. I will say, one of the positives besides the end of this episode, because I was glad it was over. The Dormammu tie-in, when Zelma was talking to Riri about where the powers could stem from, which is comic book accurate. There are connections to Hood and Dormammu. So I like that stuff. And I also like the idea. The magic stuff was the strongest part of this episode. Too bad this episode was lacking magic from the writing department. They were all possessed by the Nickelodeon demon, because this was a Nickelodeon CW type of episode. Dad stuff was solid. When she had the barf technology, reliving her Iron Head memory. I like that. The look of the suit's pretty solid, coming from the car, tying that back into Wakanda, understanding her importance of the car from Gary. I like that. Everything else, Ezekiel, his turn has been horrendous. His whole now Parker he's the puppet of Parker. Him going into finding out that his whole buildup of Parker's backstory is he has daddy issues, and it's a theme of the show. All the pillars. Riri lost her dad. Ezekiel lost his dad, and now we meet Parker's dad. Just a one-dimensional bad dad, just to be for the sake of the story. No rhyme, no reason. The whole time Parker's been taking out these corporations in order to take over his dad's business. It was a callback from episode 4. We saw him trying to break into his dad's safe to take over the company. Episode 4 was solid. Best episode of the season. Episode 5, possibly the worst episode of this show. Not possibly. It's the worst episode of this show. I don't want to speak in hyperbole, but this is one of the worst episodes of television I've seen this year. I don't know if they swapped. I know it was the same writer, and it looks like the same director from last episode. I don't know if that person switched bodies with the writers of She-Hulk, with the writers of Secret Invasion. That was horrendous. That was a really bad episode of television. That's the penultimate episode, I mind you. Where normally Marvel tends to, step their game up with their penultimate episodes, but not this time around. Some may say it was missing the magic. See what I did there? That was rough. That was a rough episode of television. Let me just ponder my thoughts for a second. So we just finished watching Riri Williams, Ironheart season finale, series finale, potentially, most likely series finale. Titled "The Past Is the Past." 41-minute episode, give or take, probably about 34 minutes of screen, actual story. And Marvel's done it again. They did it again, y'all. There's been, I would count, 2 finales, in my humble opinion, that Marvel has stuck the landing on. I would say Loki season 1, Loki season 2. Everything else has been an absolute failure. And Ironheart is in that batch. So the whole backbone of this episode is built on Parker and his story of revenge and wanting power, greed. We cut back to the scene with him and John robbing his father, who we found out from episode 5 was his dad. After 5 years, because again, I mind you, no one was talking about Mephisto prior to WandaVision and New Rockstar is getting everyone hyped up. And here we are. The rumors from almost like 2 years ago that Sacha Baron Cohen was hired to play Mephisto. Great actor. I know a lot of us think of him as Borat and the comedy stuff, comedy sketches, which that's a talent within itself, don't get me wrong, but a lot of us take him to be the comedic guy, the funny guy. But I've always been a believer that some of the best comedians make some of the best dramatic actors. So, he can act. Sasha's a good actor. One of my favorite performances of his, Trial of Chicago 7 by Aaron Sorkin on Netflix from a couple years ago. A good performance by Sasha, but capital MISCAST. Miscast. Sorry to say, I did not like him in the role at all. We meet Mephisto. He makes a deal with Mephisto, and again, Mephisto is not the devil. He's not Satan in the lore of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There is a devil in the world, and I don't know if we'll ever meet, but Mephisto, very similar to how you look at Hela and Death. They reside in the realm of hell, but there's like sections. There's different portions and people that have certain control within those sections of the supernatural demonic. So, there is a devil, Satan, and there's a Mephisto who occupies his own spot. And as we can see, obviously, it has a lot of similarities. Make a deal with the devil. He eats the food, and we see Parker side with the devil. All right, it's the same Mephisto. And it's never confirmed what the deal was. Obviously, you do the deal with Mephisto. He gives you the power. He gives you the tools to accomplish your goals. And in exchange, he never says what it is. One would assume it's your soul, but they never, flat out say that. But it's safe to assume, you're giving up your soul. So all that stuff in that first 10 minutes on paper sounds good. Unfortunately, the execution was lacking. Sasha won. Did not like him in the role. Parker being number 2. Because you want me to believe that after just one episode, I shouldn't even say an episode, after 3 scenes of Parker and getting his backstory and getting what his goals are in 3 scenes, you're supposed to take those 3 scenes and say, yep, that's developed. That's fleshed out. It makes sense. Then we have the whole Riri, the suit. Thank you. I couldn't have done this without you guys. With Landon, Ronnie, Xavier, her love interest, which that went nowhere. Fight at the bar at the pizza shop. I don't know which one's worse, the White Castle fight or the pizza shop fight with Ezekiel, the puppet, at this point in that fight. And I'll give Marvel TV show, the creators of the show, visual effects, clean, crisp, really good. But the whole back and forth of you got to kick me in the lower regions to reset, all that stuff was ridiculous. And then to add more fuel to that fire, more salt to the wound. We've seen it 1,000 times when the villain, anti-villain, anti-hero, Ezekiel in this case, looks at the hero of the story and says, my enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, we can put our beef aside for a second, but just know that we're not done here. Oh, we're done. We're done. I don't think we'll ever see Ezekiel again. You're done. You can go in the same closet with Harry Styles as Thanos' brother, with Pip, with Hercules. Just put them all in we'll never see Ezekiel again. I feel bad for Eldon. This Solo. Eldon, you need to get a new agent. You need to reconsider your job opportunities. We go upstairs with the fight. Again, Marvel never fails with the trash fights to end their shows. Riri versus Parker, or should I say Riri versus Morbius? Because I don't know what the demon takeover. You might as well mix it Morbius. And then they thought they were cooking, right? Because the whole idea of this fight was like, Riri's been so reliant on her tech. She's nothing without the suit, a la, Spider-Man and Homecoming, Iron Man throughout his film, who is the person within the suit? We know the trope. So she's nothing without the tech, nothing without the suit. Meanwhile, we have Parker. She takes the hood off of him. He's nothing without his magic, right? It's supposed to be the crescendo. We're building to this moment, and it falls flat on his face. By the way, he's just upstairs now. Soul still intact, I assume. New tattoos. Back to Mephisto. Downstairs eating pizza. About to make another deal with Riri. And I was hoping, fingers crossed, 10 minutes left in the episode. I'm like, there's still a chance. Still a chance you can redeem yourself. Instead, they just keep on pouring the poop in our faces. Pardon the nasty terminology there. He offers Riri Similar deal to all the people. He mentions Ringo from the Beatles and different popes and different famous people. By the way, now we're with the introduction of Mephisto, we're assuming that maybe he's come across a Tony Stark in his past. Maybe he's come across other characters. Who knows? Who knows if we'll ever see Mephisto again? Riri agrees to be. I don't even know what their deal is. He's allowing her to use the dark magic to to do what exactly? To bring back her AI, Natalie, right? So I'll give you Natalie, not your AI, but the real Natalie from the dead, mind you. That's not going to be complicated. Natalie's brought back from the dead. We see Riri's arm. She's affected now. For the last week or so, there's been a lot of online conversations about, is Riri a hero? Is she is she a likable character? And I was on the side that I enjoy Riri. I think Dominique Thorne is a great actress. I like her in the role. But this show has done some damage. And I don't even know where you go from here with this character in particular. Because now she's literally made the deal with a demon. And the thing that's wild is, like, we don't know when we're going to see Riri again. Post-credit scene, we saw the post-credit scene. Zelma and Parker are now going to be working together, and I don't know how he knew how to find her. I was rooting for the show, y'all. First 3 episodes were a little rough, but I thought it got better. Episode 1 was rough, 2 got a little better, 3 was really solid compared to the first 2, and 4, I stand by it. 4 is the best episode of this series. It was looking good. It was looking great. Episodes 4 and 5 has done some serious damage to this character, to her story. To the credit of the people that did write it, there were moments that they had some solid writing in episode 4. I'll point to that. But this, I can understand why Marvel did not want to put this out for almost 3 years. Because I don't know, what do you do with this? What do you all take away from this show? It's great to see the representation of a Black intelligent girl, build her own suit and to fight for the ones she loves. But I think that kind of got lost in the marvel of it all. How many times are we going to do this? And there's a lot of people I respect out there that's been championing for this show. And, I know a lot of people that enjoyed this show, that saw the 6 episodes, and, to each their own. But, it's like you want to champion diversity. You want to champion opportunities and characters like Riri Williams, like a Shiri. We don't have a lot of Black representation in Marvel, especially leading their own shows and movies. So it is like sometimes you got to kind of like root for things when it's not good. And this is tough. I can't say this is a good show. This was bad because of the lack of representation within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, within the landscape of Hollywood in general. And then, but it just stings when we get trash like this. I'm sorry, it's hard. This was trash. Now I'm just trying to take my own disappointment of this show to the side and just think about grander picture. What do you do from here? What's the next steps? I feel like, Echo, everyone from Secret Invasion, minus Nick Fury. We know we're going to see him again, but like Amelia Clark's character, and like, are they doing this on purpose? Let's put our conspiracy hats on. Let's write these characters terribly. Write them so bad that they don't want to see them again. This show was scheduled to come out in 2022. Marvel knew what they had on their hands. They go back and reshoot Daredevil, Frankenstein it up. But then they just thought that this, we're going to shove it for 3 years and then we're going to throw it at them and hope they catch it. Maybe they'll miss it. This is bad. This is bad for the brand. This is bad for the character. But thank y'all for joining me tonight. In the meantime, got a Jurassic World Rebirth review on the channel, Megan 2.0, F1, and Monday, Superman. But again, guys, thank you. Hit that thumbs up before you leave. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I'll see you all soon. Riri, I'm sorry they did that to you. I'm sorry they did that to you.